Okay, we're going to start our conversation of sex-linked or X-linked traits. Just a little recap. Mendel was the Austrian monk. He studied pea plants. He figured out inheritance patterns and law of segregation and the law of independent assortment. Mainly all he did eventually was understand and explain dominant and recessive traits and how they are expressed. That is all he did. From here on out, we're going to talk about a lot of different types of inheritance patterns, and you do need to know that all Mendel gets the credit for is understanding dominant versus recessive. So X-linked traits. If we were in class, we would do this, but if you can't see the numbers in here, that is probably because you are colorblind. Same with the, if you can't see the green and the red here, if you can't see the blue and the green here, and the green and the red, you are colorblind. So X-linked traits were figured out in the early 1900s by Thomas Hunt Morgan, and they are linked to our sex chromosomes. We normally call them X-linked traits because we really only study what is on the X chromosome, and I will explain why. So, males carry an XY, females carry an XX. Everybody has an X chromosome, so traits that are carried on an X chromosome can affect both genders. Anything on a Y obviously is a sex-linked trait, but it only affects males. There's really no inheritance patterns to study because only men can get this. So we study the sex-linked traits on X chromosomes. So you can say sex-linked or more specifically X-linked, and basically you're talking about the same thing. So if you have an X-linked trait, will it affect a boy or a girl or both? And the answer is it can affect both because they both have X's. But remember, we have dominant and recessive. So if a male inherits a recessive X-linked trait, there's no option to have a dominant trait to cover it up because there isn't a second X. So every X-linked trait is expressed in a male. In females, it works the same. You either have to have a dominant and anything, or you'd have to have two recessives to have a recessive trait show up. So this is a picture of a um, karyotype of a human chromosome, and there are different types of chromosomes. There are sex chromosomes and there are autosomes. The sex chromosomes are the ones down here, so I want you to circle those in your notes because yours aren't colored. And then is this person a male or female? And you need to know that boys have the Y. Notice also the chromosomes are numbered in pairs. Hopefully you can notice something about the order, and that is that it goes by size. So chromosome pair number 1 is the biggest, 22 is the smallest, and then X and Y get their own little corner. It has nothing to do with size because they are the gender determining chromosomes. All these other chromosomes determine everything else about you. So if we look at a Punnett square, usually we've been looking at autosomes, and that Mendel's law of segregation, whatever gene is on this chromosome is down here, and then whatever gene is right here goes there. So this is how mom's genes divide up. The dad's genes would divide the same way. So it works the same way with sex chromosomes. They operate as a pair, but we're going to specifically call them X and Y. So if we look at X-linked traits, again, we're only going to talk about traits down here. So when we build our Punnett square, we're going to have an X and a Y at the top for dad and an XX on the side for mom, or vice versa, it doesn't matter. There are certain traits that we're going to study that are only on the X chromosome. That is the gene for color blindness, baldness, muscular dystrophy, intelligence, hemophilia. So you need to recognize these as sex-linked or X-linked traits. So their whole point of this is that there are genes on the X chromosome that have nothing to do with sexual characteristics, but code for all human needs. Because every human has an X, some of those genes just happen to be on the X chromosome. So other things that have nothing to do with gender, again, color blindness, baldness, also your intelligence is on your X chromosome. So males only have one X, so every trait is fully expressed. And because girls have two, it follows those same dominant recessive inheritance patterns that we've learned before. So let's just look at an example. Hemophilia is a sex-linked trait. So when you make a Punnett square, first you put the sex chromosome, and then you superscript whatever the allele for that trait is. So normally we would have just written a big H, but now we're going to attach that gene to the X chromosome, so write it as a superscript. Otherwise, it works the same. So if you are a female with homozygous dominant, you put those homozygous dominant genes up high. Here's a female that is heterozygous. We call her a carrier. And here is a male that is normal, so he is a dominant. Here's a male with the recessive. He has hemophilia. All the traits that we are going to study are recessive disorders. So whenever you have a dominant, we'll call you normal. If you are showing the recessive, we call you having that trait. If you have one of each, which can only be on a girl, you are called a carrier. So you can be a hemophiliac female. You would just have to be homozygous recessive for that trait. All right, so let's just try it. Here's an example. If mom is a carrier for color blindness, first write down mom's sex chromosomes. Girls are XX. I told you she was a carrier, so you get one big and one little. Dad can see color. He only has one X. If he can see color, the dominant trait is healthy. So give him dominant. And then his other chromosome is Y. So you're going to cross it the same way. Take the mom's X with the big B, carry it down and carry it down. Take the X with the little b, carry it down, carry it down. Take dad's X with the big B and slide it over, and dad's Y, slide it over. So here are two baby girls. The baby girls could be homozygous, dominant, or the girls could be carriers. So again, if it's on a sex chromosome and you have one of each allele, you are called a carrier. Here's a baby boy that can see color. Here's a baby boy that is colorblind. So again, when you describe genotypes and phenotypes, you are going to tell me the gender this time. So probability of a colorblind daughter is 50%. Of the daughters, half of them will be colorblind. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Probability of a carrier is 50%. There's zero chance that a girl will be colorblind. There's a 100% chance that she will have normal vision because we don't know what her genotype is. Probability of a colorblind son is 50%. Half the boys will get the big B, the other half should get the little b. And I forgot what that said. I'm waiting for that black box to go away. Okay, if you want to look at just all their children, then ignore gender. Of all their kids, what's the chance of having a colorblind child? And one of the 4 children would be colorblind. So I might ask you questions specifically about gender, and that's where you look at the top half, or I might ask you just about the kids in general. Just for your information, there are some traits that are Y-linked that are kind of goofy. Boys are the only people that get hairy ears. So this guy's seriously hairy. But I know my husband, he's got hair growing out the side of his ear, and it grows out long from the inside of his ear. Not as bad as this guy, but girls will never have hairy ears because we will never have a Y chromosome. This is another kind of sad Y-linked mutation. So hypertrichosis, you get hair all over your body. There are other disorders that are associated with this mutation in that chromosome. And then hemophilia again is our most common one, that and colorblind. I'm not going to show you this video. It's super interesting if you want to click on it. But when you build a Punnett square, first you build it with the gender, and then you're going to attach those superscript the other trait. So if you look just at gender, every time a baby is made, there's a 50-50 chance that it will be boy or girl. So then you have to attach those genders on the superscript. So let's try it. Cross a hemophiliac male and a carrier female. So the first thing you're going to do is write the sex chromosomes for female on top or the side, and then male on the other side, and then figure out what they have. If he has hemophilia, remember these are recessive disorders, so you have to put that recessive H on the male. The female is a carrier, so first make her a girl, and then make her a carrier. And then cross those X's and Y's across, figure out genotypes and phenotypes. So genotype choices are up here, and then when we describe them, they are down here. So we are going to practice this next with the fancy worksheet and go over it in class.